Psalm 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you look and see the reward of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near you, your dwelling. For He shall give His angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. In their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you shall trample underfoot. Because He has set His love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. All right, this is Tuesday. It's Bo Polny and Andrew Sorchini. We're back. What's new in the world? Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us back. Good to see everybody again. Thank you, guys.
Volatile times, isn't it? So you got any updates, Bo?
Well, like I said, nothing's changed. If you remember what we talked about last time, we are in a critical window, okay? I still believe, based on what I'm seeing on my charts and what I'm calculating, is the great wealth transfer that we've been waiting for. This incredible financial event is still supposed to go down this summer. Okay, so those who are sitting on their hands and feet and waiting maybe for September, October to see if Pastor Dave and Andrew, what we were talking about made any sense, they're going to miss what's about to happen. It's going to be extremely volatile. Look at the events that are coming out right now. Okay, just in the past 2-3 weeks, all of July, it's just been one event after another, and we are in that a critical time window of June 25 to August 9th. That's called the Kim Clement prophecy. That's called the summer will be the mediator between spring and fall. So again, I'm reiterating, and I'm really glad Andrew is here as well too, because he can talk about more what's going on with the precious metals, in terms of the purchasing. But I'm telling you, time is now very short. We are in the summer months right here. And we are quickly approaching a very, very critical time window where the Daniel calculation completes on August 9th. So I'm telling you, there's that 45-day window, very, very important critical time point for the world. And we're just going to have to see how this plays out, because no one knows the exact day this is going to go down. No one knows the events and how this is going to play out, because, again, the final strike that God had at the Red Sea was a secret. Nobody knew, including Moses. Okay, no one knew how this is going to play out. And so 2 critical time points, like a double punch is coming. There's something going to happen here this summer, July into August. I'm telling you, in this 45-day window that we've referenced is very critical. It's going to be strike 1, which is a nothing but a prelude, and it's going to be huge. But this is a prelude to the kill shot that God's going to inflict upon this world as we head into late September, which we talked about in the last podcast, because September leads us into Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
Yep.
So please continue, David and Pastor.
I'll turn it over to Andrew in a second, but before we came on, I told you that some of my sources said it may be pushed back into August, what we thought may happen, not what you're talking about, but more military action is more of a military perspective. But with that said, nobody knows the day or the hour. When you're at war, the enemy doesn't tell you when you're going to strike and when you're going to strike back. Now that I say that, and I got the intel that said that, it could happen while we're on this podcast. So nobody knows. I'll turn it over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're seeing here on the financial end of things is that JP Morgan actually on their earnings call about a week ago actually Jamie Dimon actually warned that there could be a big run on the banks. And he based that on from July 5th to July 12th, $78 billion exited the banking system.
Wow.
And it was relatively quiet for the 2 weeks prior to that. So something's in the air, like something woke up people on that particular week to say, hey, I need to go and pull some money out of the bank. Maybe they're buying real estate, maybe they're putting it into stocks, but they ought to be putting it into gold because we're seeing that around the third week of next month is when Russia's still scheduled to announce at a summit that they're moving over to the gold-backed central bank digital currency. So I think that time is running out for people to get into gold and silver at the levels that it's at now.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Andrew, because I think I tweeted it out yesterday. There's been a lot of reports throughout the United States in the last days, literally days, that people are not being able to get their money out of their accounts over even small amounts. I think we mentioned that even a month ago, but now I'm hearing it more frequently. And there was actually I think it was the Gateway Pundit ran an article on it. One of the main newspapers that's trustworthy said the same thing, that there's been runs, people trying to get money out and they can't. So would you tell people what that means financially to silver and gold when Russia makes that decision at that summit with the rest of the BRICS groups?
Well, when Russia makes the decision to move the BRICS nations, which is like 41 nations strong, into a gold-backed central bank digital currency, that's going to make the dollar mostly irrelevant for the whole country, the whole world. Yeah. So that's going to dethrone the dollar as the world's reserve currency, and in doing so, is going to make it for much harder for the United States to try to slow down our national debt, which is like trillions and trillions of dollars. So that will create hyperinflation. Hyperinflation makes everything cost more. And here we are back into the inflation talks, and inflation is always makes gold and silver go up in value. And really gold and silver specifically gold, are the best way to attack inflation, because as things cost more, the price of gold can go higher as well, which helps you preserve everything that you've worked your whole life for. So it could get pretty ugly for us as far as our monetary system.
Yeah, we're supposed to have a Fed decision as early as tomorrow. Is that right? The Fed's going to meet this week? I know it's this week. And they anticipate the rates are going to go up to a 22-year high on interest rates.
And to that point, that's specifically what Jamie Dimon talked about on the earnings call. He said that the rising interest rates are making it really hard for the banks to compete with when it comes to the different products that they offer. So it's almost making the banks irrelevant, and moving to a central bank digital currency that can trade on a blockchain. That's something that's going to happen no matter what. I know Bo knows a lot about cryptocurrency and tokens as well, but that really will change the fiat currency system as we know it, not just here in the States, but globally.
You know, Andrew, you speak about fiat currency you just referenced. You also referenced the word trillions of dollars. Okay. Here's what I want the viewers to really think about. Make a note on this. And when you go to turn your TV on, you're watching these financial channels, and they're talking about money and all these different financial channels, the Squawk Box, and all these people talking about, investing this, investing that, and they're using the word trillions. Please think about this for a second, okay? In 1970, there was no word for a trillion. When Nixon took us off the gold standard, the entire money supply in the United States was approximately $500 million. 1,000 million is a billion. Okay, so there was under $1 billion in the 70s, early 70s. Once Nixon took us off the gold standard, they had the ability, because there's zero correlation, and I've talked about this before in prior interviews we've done, but there's no correlation to gold and silver, which means that the fiat money system becomes nothing but created out of thin air. Because before, if it has even a 1% correlation for every $100 of fiat you would produce, you'd have to have at least $1 worth of gold, okay? And so when there's no correlation, they can create it out of thin air. And guess what they've been doing? creating it out of thin air. The money system is a fraud. So, they say on that, oh, gold and bad, not necessary, or not, or just a rock. Cryptocurrencies are not necessary. They're evil. They're a fraud. The one question you want to ask anybody who challenges you is, where did the $1 trillion come from? Where did the quadrillion dollars come from? They talk about a roof or a ceiling. They're battling over, 6 or 7 trillion last time around on this agreement that they're trying to make in the Senate. The point I'm trying to make is ask them, where did the 7 trillion come from? You see, it's created out of thin air. So if something's created out of thin air, it has ultimately no value. There's never been a paper money system that's ever existed that's existed more over 100 plus years ever. This is the longest standing paper money system that's ever existed. The only money that's ever existed in the thousands of years is gold and silver, period. Okay. So if people listening to this have zero gold and silver and they have all of their investments in the real estate and stock market in the bank, basically money sitting there, I promise you, when the world comes to discover what Andrew was talking about, where the BRICS might attack, or there's going to be some kind of financial shift. When the dollar loses its status as the world reserve currency, the world is suddenly going to flee from the dollar, and they're going to be dumping it. People will probably be overseas on vacations, and they're going to have problems getting home because those countries will no longer want the US dollar as payment, believe it or not. So this is going to be a historic moment in this, that's been coined, Caesar's got no clothes. What that means is it comes to find out that, or else, that movie you saw, Wizard of Oz, when the drape opens and all it is some little guy talking in a loudspeaker, right? To make him sound really big. The whole system, mark my words, the world is going to find out the entire financial system is a fraud. And they will keep pushing this financial system to infinity for another 10, 20, 50, 100 years, okay? But at some point, God is going to intervene. When God intervenes, it's going to be the greatest financial event in human history. This is be comparable to what Jesus Christ did when he walked into the temple and flipped the tables on the money changers, because he knew that their love for money would be the root of all evil for the next 2,000 years. So we are now at a point in time where God is going to intervene. This is the Jubilee. This is Leviticus. Thou shalt consecrate the 50th year. This is a point in time where God is going to intervene. And we are going to see the fulfillment of 2 Chronicles. If my children who are called by my name will humble themselves, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways. We just did. We overturned Roe v. Wade. It's an if-then. Then, so if we do that, we did, then I will hear from heaven and forgive their sins and heal their land. When God intervenes, this is going to be one of the what's written behind Pastor David's, his glory. We're going to see the glory moment on this earth. The financial tables flip. Evil will lose its stronghold. These people are going to suddenly, many will probably die. Others are going to be turning on one another. This is going to be one of the greatest shifts in human history on this earth, and we get to watch this. And so right now we're sitting here in summer. Gold and silver are still going sideways, okay? Silver's, in that $24, $25 range, going sideways. Gold's still under $2,000. When God intervenes, it's going to be a sudden spike vertical. Silver will probably triple in price in a single day, go to $60 to $70. Andrew's closed all of his doors. He's not selling. He's probably at the beach like we've joked about. But it's not only Andrew, it's every other dealer, because they won't know what to buy or sell precious metals for. The whole system is going to be one big question mark when the truth comes out of what they've done with the money system. It's going to happen, and it's so soon. And so all I'm saying is that, those that are listening to this podcast, we're sitting here in July. As it's ending, today's the 25th. I'm telling you, we're in this time window. If you're staffing, can click on, I sent a PDF, they have it, but it's on page 7. It just shows that, between June 25 and August 9th, there's that massive time window where there's a shift in our world about to happen. When this Daniel cycle ends on August 9th, as we then head into September, forget about it. And, this is correlating with what Pastor Dave is saying as well, what his intel in the military is saying as well, too. And what I'm saying is that charts, cycles precede events. The future's written, okay? God wrote the end from the beginning. And so these events that Pastor Dave is talking about are about to manifest on the earth. And I honestly, and then you go from here, but I honestly believe what the BRICS are setting up for is going to be secondary, because I believe God's going to intervene first. We're going to see a biblical event that no one even sees coming before even the BRICS event, summer, I think what's about the 25th or 24th or something like that. It's later in August.
It is.
I believe we're going to see something sooner because, again, and I could be wrong, it could be then, but the point is that that's still summertime. All of August is summer. And I'm telling you, we're going to see the start of the greatest wealth transfer in human history. It's supposed to manifest here this summer.
And
Go ahead, Pat.
And that's why there's wars and rumors of wars and we're imminent military action. Israel, I got a text late last night from one of the generals there. He says in his lifetime, it's never been more volatile in Israel. There's a coup going on right now to take out Benjamin Netanyahu. Over the weekend, Henry Kissinger, at 100 years old, went to China. Did you guys hear about that? Tried to negotiate. They're afraid that the bond market, the bonds that the U.S. have to China will crash. And they say the only way out of that is war. That's why military and the finance are so connected to each other.
Well, I should want to say just quickly, and Andrew can go over here, but basically they always have a massive war or military conflict because they want to introduce a new financial system. Look what happened in World War II, right? World War I. So they have to basically bring a massive scare factor, massive military they use, because remember the globalists, that, the evil, what does he do? Kills, steals, and destroys. John 10:10. But I, Jesus, come to bring you life more abundantly, right? So evil always will bring in wars and massive conflicts, and then they flip the financial system into another paper monetary system, and that's all that's been going on. But this is a moment in time where everything they're trying to do is about to blow up in their face, including, again, digital currency. There's two ways to look at this. Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies are blockchain. The central banks are trying to bring on a central bank digital currency. That's like the Fed money. That's their money, okay? So you have to understand, God's going to intervene on them. And their plans for the central bank, CBDC, is going to blow up, but not what's going to happen to precious metals, including cryptocurrencies. And so we're about to see a complete workaround the Fed. That's what's coming. The Fed becomes unimportant. These bankers become unimportant, and the world starts to transact outside the present financial system. Why? Because the world comes to realize it's a fraud.
And if you do that, Andrew, if you go out and eliminate the Fed and go around them, like Bo said, what other measuring stick can you use other than gold, especially gold and silver?
Exactly. It's for me, that's the safest way to go. It's been the world's currency for thousands of years. Last night, I started to watch this movie called The Big Short, which I know we've all seen. I've seen it so many times, but I only made it about halfway through and going to watch the rest later. But it's interesting how reminiscent right now as compared to then. And it's funny how they explain things so that really just anybody could understand. Basically, they just create money out of thin air and create products to be able to kick the can down the road. And if the way that central banks operate with their monetary policy by literally printing dollars out of thin air, like they know that it's going to come to an end. It's time for a reset. It really is. So I mean, if it was personal finances, you would file for bankruptcy. You would just say, okay, I can't handle this anymore. That's it. I'm ready to start over. So as both of you just suggested, if there was some sort of a conflict, a war, they could usher it in. They've created the problem themselves. And then they say, hey, we've got the fix. And the fix is what they wanted to push before they created the problem. So for me, I just want to own as much gold and silver as possible before all of this happens. If I go too heavy into the gold and silver and something happens and I need to liquidate as a means to an end, no problem, I can do that. I would rather have too much now than not enough later, because the one thing I know for sure, when everything that we say can happen does happen, you're going to look back and say, wow, I wish I got more gold and silver.
Beverly Hills Precious Metals Exchange is a client-focused firm devoted to assisting our clients with precious metals. Our clients range from first-time to serious coin collectors and investors seeking to add precious metals to their investment portfolios. We are not interested in volatile investments, leveraged products, and intangible assets. With rising inflation and a devaluing of the dollar hurting middle-class families, investing in gold and silver ensures protection for your hard-earned money. Save the value of your money today by investing in gold and silver at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.
Have you ever heard anybody say, I wish I wouldn't have bought so much silver and gold? I don't think I've ever heard that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I've had people, there's one client that comes back to us all the time. He goes to all the different tour stops. I saw him in Miami, I saw him in Nashville, and he'll say, okay, I'm good right now. My percentage of precious metals versus the rest of my portfolio is good. Earlier this week, he texts me, he goes, I feel comfortable if I go 60% into precious metals. He goes, I know it's higher than what I've told you in the past, but I'm comfortable doing that right now because of everything that we know is coming. He goes, what are your thoughts? I go, well, I'm technically, I can't advise you to do that. I'm not a registered financial advisor, but I'll just tell you that if you did that, you wouldn't regret it, because if you end up needing those extra percentage points that you've committed to precious metals, you can always turn it back into greenbacks anytime you want. So I just don't see how it can hurt you. And he goes, okay, I'll be in touch.
Let me expand on that. Okay, how many people have gone on vacation here to Europe or a different country, right? So, Pastor Dave, you've gone to Israel, right? You bought the shekel, you buy their currency, right? And so you might buy X amount of money here in the U.S. You go to your bank, you buy their currency. Sound familiar? And then you go there and you spend that currency, and then at the end of your trip, it's like, hey, I've got X amount of their currency left over. You come home with it, and you go back to the same bank, and then you turn in that currency from a different country, and they will exchange it for you back into the US dollar. Okay, that's exactly what purchasing gold and silver is. The only difference is you're not buying paper, you're buying real money. No difference.
Yep. I love how Bo just said that, because I just got back from Europe, and I'm still one of these people that I take dollars into Europe. And I've been to Europe many times, and usually the dollar is king there, but it's not. It's many of the different countries now don't want the dollar. And the only place I've found to be able to exchange my dollars into euros is either through the hotel or at some of the money changing places that you'll see over at the airport. But it's become increasingly difficult. So to Bo's point, on my last trip, I ran out of euros about 2 days before we were done with the trip, and I couldn't find a place to be able to exchange dollars into euros. So I'm trying to only deal with people that will accept dollars, and it became increasingly difficult. So it would have made more sense for the next trip. And I actually told my wife this, next time I'm going to buy way more euros than we need, and I'll just either save what's left over for the next trip or cash them in at the end. And gold and silver can work exactly the same way. Bo has exactly hit the nail on the head for sure.
Yep.
When you do travel and when you go to different countries, most of the time, Andrew brought up a great point. You can actually take the dollar and they'll usually give you the exchange like right then and there. Everybody historically has always wanted a dollar. I'm going to repeat that. I know when I was in college, years ago, 20, 30 years ago, I'd go on trips and with the US dollar to different countries, and we would give them a dollar and they would immediately, oh yeah, I'll take it. No problem. They take your 20s and whatever you'd give them, and they give it change back in their currency. But everybody knew the dollar. They all wanted the dollar. That's critical, right? And so Andrew brought an interesting point up. Less countries now actually wanting the dollar. They won't even exchange it. Now, I'm telling you, and that's only a prelude. When the dollar loses its status as the world reserve currency, it's going to happen this year. When that event happens, forget about it. You're going to see people in different countries stranded because that country will not accept a dollar as payment for an airline ticket or whatever means of travel for them to get home. This is going to be historic, what's about to happen.
Well, you made a great point, because that just happened to me. All the times I've traveled to Israel, everybody takes the dollar. Whether you're in Palestine or in Bethlehem, wherever you're at, everybody takes the dollar. They love the dollar. My last trip in February, I probably ran into 2 or 3 places where they didn't want the dollar, and I never heard of that before. So it's coming. That was February. Now, I'm sure they don't want the dollar.
Yeah, but we don't know what we're talking about. I'm kidding. No, right? But look what's been happening. We've been saying this, and it's all coming to fruition. What hasn't happened is that biblical moment where God intervenes, strikes the pharaohs of this world, and destroys the US dollar as a world reserve currency. And then immediately after, shortly thereafter, the BRICS are going to pile in. This is how I believe the BRICS will pile in because they've already got everything set up. So something historic is about to happen here, and we are so close. We're in this window of time that the calculated time point is coming to a sharp end here, right around the 9th of August. So I don't know how this is going to play out. I just know in my heart this is Leviticus time point where God is going to intervene, flip the tables on the money changers who love their money. He's going to destroy their control of humanity, no different than what happened to Pharaoh and at the Red Sea. And from that day forward, this is going to be awesome because all the nations feared the God of Israel after the Red Sea closed. And mark my words, when God intervenes and he's going to show himself to the world, all the nations of the world will fear the God of now Israel and the United States.
Yep.
It's
And
coming.
God's given us a couple opportunities that we've had a couple false starts, I think. And I was told that there's been 3 attempts that we thwarted by the grace of God that could have triggered this event already. And I don't know how many more we can thwart, but God's plan is going to come in. We need to trust him. If you have silver and gold, or you don't have silver and gold, you should try to get some if you can. If you don't, we understand God's going to win this either way, and it's got to crash before it can come up for his purpose and his glory.
Well, actually, I want to add, kind of combining what Andrew was saying, what you're saying, Pastor Dave, because Andrew brought up the word trillions, right?
Yep.
And then Pastor Dave saying, to those that don't have the financial means to basically prepare for this financial event that's coming. Well, here's the thing. You see, they've created, a million is 1,000 million is a billion, 1,000 billion is a trillion, 1,000 trillion is a quadrillion, and we're in the quadrillions, okay? So their financial money that they've created by adding zeros and digits, creating it out of thin air, if you literally had to count to a trillion, it's 33,000 years.
Jeez.
That's how long it would take. So the money that they've created, the insane volume of money that's been created, Proverbs 13:22, the wealth of the sinner. So they've created quadrillions. The wealth of the sinner is stored up for who, Pastor Dave? The church, the bride to be. So those who don't have the means, fear not, worry not, because God's a provider. And so the wealth that's going to come to those that prepared financially because they could, the outflow from them is going to be so enormous because the wealth transfer is going to be so enormous that all of the children, all the bride to be will be so financially blessed and taken care of. You got nothing to worry about. God's got you.
You want to have a tangible asset. And for me, that would be real estate or gold and silver. But I like gold and silver because it's portable. So you can take it anywhere you want, anywhere in the world, and it has the same value. And some people don't know that. Like when I went to Dubai last year, someone said, wow, you can buy gold cheap. I go, well, what kind of gold? They said, like gold bars, you can buy them for a lot less than here. Absolutely not true. Gold has the exact same value in the United States as it does in Dubai or any other country in the world. Every single day there's a spot price, and whatever gold asset you buy is directly linked to that spot price. The premiums can be different from product to product, but it's all based on that price. So it's money anywhere in the world. And just one more thing, we're seeing a lot of the smart money come out of the woodwork here. It is a slower time. Bo and I were talking about that before the interview, in that this is probably the first July since before COVID where literally everyone out there is traveling. Last July, people traveled, but not as many. Some people said, well, I'm still not ready. But this year's everybody's traveling. So it's a slower time. You're able to get gold and silver cheap. The premiums are cheap. The delivery time is fast. And I just can't think of a better reason to do it. We've even done a lot of cash transactions with people, like face to face. And when they give us the $100 bills, I'm seeing a lot of the old bills. Like if someone gives us $20,000 in $100 bills, I'm seeing like the old ones that come on the white paper, not the blue paper. And what that tells me is that these people have had their dollars under the mattress at their home or wherever for possibly decades, and they don't feel comfortable having it there anymore. So it's finding its way into the gold and silver physical metal space. And that to me is very interesting.
Yeah. And again, they can take their 401ks and IRAs and switch that over to physical. And if something major happened, which it's going to happen, I don't think it'll be long and prolonged, but you need to have that as a trade, as barter as well, to have those small increments.
Exactly. So if you do roll a 401k or an IRA into one that holds precious metals, first of all, it is not a taxable event. Your broker might tell you otherwise. Your broker will say, oh, no, that creates a taxable event. They say that because that will likely scare you into out of moving it away from them. So when you do have one that holds precious metals, like physical gold and silver, those are metals that you could actually have delivered to your home. If you did do that, that would be a taxable event. But the way to avoid it is to have it stored at a third-party depository. And that's what we use. So if the banks were to fail in a similar way to the movie that I watched last night, The Big Short, if that happens again, the banks will come tumbling down. Some will survive, some won't. But your gold and silver is still going to be there. And you'll still be able to draw on that if you needed to. And for me, I'd rather have that than stocks right now.
Yeah, to touch on that, you'll get to the second part of that movie tonight, maybe. That second part, when they start to panic, they start lying to people and selling them junk just to get out. And I heard horror stories after horror stories of people who've lost all their finances in 2008 because their broker wouldn't let them out, lied to them.
It's unbelievable. It's like oftentimes the government could back this. I mean, I was speaking with somebody recently for a big company that we know. He's the CEO of the company, and I can't say who it is because this is just so bad. He was dealing with the government, or the government was trying to shut down his company, and the government knew full well that he had people that had already invested into the company, and they said, "Look, just shut it down, and we won't investigate you. We won't do anything." And he said, "Well, what about all the investors?" And they said, "Forget about them." And really, it's they're not necessarily looking after the people, not like they used to back at the beginning of The Big Short. They talk about how the bankers used to be like rock stars, like they were. That was something you wanted to be. It was a respectable profession. And we've definitely turned a 180 since then.
I'm curious to get both of your thoughts on Henry Kissinger going at 100 years old, going to China. Do you have any thoughts around that?
I think that he must see the big picture, where sometimes I wonder, why does Donald Trump really go through everything that he's going through right now to be president again? It's I feel like they feel so strong about what they know is happening right now. I feel as much information as we have, they have that information on steroids. So I feel like they can't just sit tight and do nothing.
Well, and from what I understand, Kissinger was directly involved with what went on 50 years ago with Nixon as well, too.
Yep.
So I don't know all the details. The point is, it's just this is a financial system that they will do anything and everything to maintain the status quo, because they've built this financial system. In other words, their lies, their deceit, their crooked dealings, what they do with the kids, everything that they've done is based on the U.S. dollar maintaining its status as the world reserve currency. When that event flips and it loses the status as the world reserve currency, all the truths come out, because the Bible says very clearly, and the truth will set you free. And so when the dollar falls here, we're going to see truths come out like you've never imagined before. All the secrets that were hidden in the dark, they're all going to start popping off and coming out like you can't even imagine. And it's going to happen fast. It will not take long. Secrets will be revealed, including technology. We're going to have incredible revelation of new technology that's been hidden for hundreds of years that we've known about. But we're not supposed to know. So they've been hiding technology. So many things are about to manifest here, and it's all going to be triggered with the collapse of this dollar, which is going to be specifically laid right into bank runs and bank closures. People are going to have immense amounts of money, and the people that presently have immense amounts of money in the bank are going to find out soon enough that bank's gone, and they've lost everything. And so this is what's coming. And the prophetic word, I think, years ago, with David Wilkerson, was it starts in Europe, and within there's bank runs start in Europe. So do expect those this summer. And then once the bank runs start in Europe, shortly thereafter, they migrate directly into the United States. And what a bank run is very simple. It's very simple. The bank might have in cash, in its paper supply, whatever, maybe $100,000 in cash, maybe $500,000, who knows what it is, right? But you look at the amount of digits that they've created is not even close to the amount of paper that's made, right? And so after the first 2, 3, 4, 5 people come to the bank and they drain all of as much money as they can, the bank's no longer got paper. And so soon enough, the world finds out that the whole system was a Ponzi scheme. And that's what a bank run is. And then there's going to be rioting in the streets because people are going to want their money. The banks are all closed. You're going to see rioting, people going crazy because they cannot get their money. They need money to buy food. Like everything gets crazy. And those who prepared financially have precious metals, and all you're watching is your money that you're holding, your gold and silver, skyrocketing in value. And so whatever happens in the world, Matthew is very clear. Well, first off, damages are sevenfold. So take a price of silver right now, multiply by 7. That's what's coming. So, silver in the $175 to $200 range is coming very quickly, okay, when this thing starts. But that's only damages, because you have to pay damages right away. And so that's going to be very shortly here. And then after that, you're talking Matthew's blessings are 30, 60, 100-fold. I believe the summary in the Bible is written 1,000-fold, right? So, for those that don't have the financial means to buy precious metals, fear not. because the blessings that God's going to provide for those that prepared and his church are going to be so enormous that it's going to take care of everything you need. And then we're going to live those words of what Moses did when he walked up to Pharaoh. Let my people go so they can go in the wilderness and worship me. And silver historically has been used what in the Bible? Go do all your research. What is silver bought in the Bible over and over and over again? Land.
Yep.
Land. And it's all over the Bible. And that's what's coming. People are going to be taking their blocks of silver, picking up land, building whatever they want to build there, have whatever they have, but they're going to be, in this world, not of the world. Again, that's scriptural, not making it up, okay? And the blessings are going to be enormous because God is a way maker. He is going to make a way. And as ugly, this is really a cool part, as ugly as things look right now or have looked and got worse every single year for the past 3.5 years, God runs a 7-year cycle, which he's revealed to me. And so we're at the turning point and the massive turn. We're in the 45-day turn right now. And then we start on the new cycle as of August 9th onwards. And so critical time window as we head into August 9th. Next, hugely, even more powerful time window because this is biblical. It's God's time, not my time.
Yep.
Pastor Dave will attest to this. What's God's most important time point in the world, right? Rosh Hashanah, which then leads into the 10 days of awe, which is the most important time of God's calendar, is Yom Kippur. So September 15th is Rosh Hashanah, 10 days of awe, then shoots us into September 25, Yom Kippur, the holiest day of God's year, not my year, God's year. And then that leads us into the start of year 51, which means that if we're in year 50 Leviticus, God's done something as we approach the 25th of September. So critical time window. I hope people have truly listened to us, those who do have means, because what's coming is going to be historic, but it's going to be horrific. It's a double-edged sword, right? For those who prepared, it's going to be incredible.
Yep.
For those who didn't prepare, horrific. And so again, when the glory manifests, you have both happening at the same time. And for those, forget even those who didn't prepare, those who planted evil seeds, oh my goodness, right? They're going to reap on their heads what they wanted to happen to the bride, to God's bride, to the church. So this is going to be a complete flip. And then that leads us into October, into November. Well, what's November, Pastor Dave and Andrew? Thanksgiving, harvest, right? And that's where they will reap what they have sown. So this year is going to be like no other. This is going to go, and again, even add up the year 2023, it's a 7. This year is going to be a year the world's never going to forget. And as we head into, again, as we get into December, wow, talk about a 180 from where it was in June.
Absolutely. People always ask, where is this money going to come from? And you hit it right on the head, biblically and what's going to happen in the world. It's going to come from the wicked. BlackRock just last week announced that they're going to spend $1 trillion in rebuilding Ukraine. $1 trillion. So the BlackRocks of the world that's where it's going to go. It's coming back to the church. God's going to read.
Well, let me tell you just real briefly here, right? I'm Ukrainian, okay, just let you know. But when you start doing the research behind all this, you come to realize that this goes back to the Khazarian mafia, which goes back to the Garden of Eden, the evil, okay? So the Ukrainian people are beautiful, amazing people. It's like everything in the world, right? It's the 3-letter agencies at the top. Yep. It's the top of, so if you know the back of the dollar bill, you have the all-seeing eye. That's called the gate to hell. So everything below that is the people. That's the good part. It's the gate to hell, the very pyramid, the top of the pyramid. And so the very top of everything is corrupt, beyond corrupt, beyond corrupt. Why? Because it goes all the way back to the garden and Satan.
Mm-hmm. We are certainly living in biblical times. It's absolutely amazing. I go back to what that Israeli general told me last night. He said it's the worst in his lifetime. That means 1948, when Israel became a nation, before they were a nation, 67, all that, he said it's worse. So the birth pains are speeding up. I'll let you guys have the closing remarks.
Well, I think that as much that we've talked about today, much of it has been probably not as positive as we'd like it to be. I still feel that we live in the best nation out there. It's just we do have to take some action, some steps to be able to protect ourselves. And when we talk about diversifying with gold and silver, people should reach out to us. Go to bh-pm.com, and there'll be a form on the front page there. Just put in your first name, last name, email address, and say His Glory sent you. and put in a couple sentences about what you'd like to talk about. You can say, I have a 401k that I want to roll over into gold and silver, or I've never done this before and I need some handholding as I do this for the first time. But definitely reach out, because right now is time when you can get a fast response. You can get the attention that you might need. You can get gold and silver at a good price and get it quickly. So there's no pressure here. And if you start to feel like there's pressure, just take a step back, pray about it, and come back to us when you're comfortable.
Yeah, and before I let Bo talk the last second, I bought more. I didn't think I was going to buy more, and I knew that it's the only way to go, and we bought more.
And those listening to this podcast, like Andrew said, some of this is bad news. Listen, the Bible is the good news, okay? If this to you doesn't feel right, or you're uncomfortable with listening to this conversation about owning precious metals, because you probably don't have any. You see, the point is, when God intervenes, it's going to be historic. It's going to be awesome. So what's coming is his glory. His glory is going to be manifest across this entire globe. This is going to be the greatest time point in human history. Yep. God's a waymaker. It's going to be incredible what's coming. There's no bad news about any of this podcast unless you simply don't prepare and have just not interested in preparing and think none of this makes sense. So the point is, Matthew 24 states there'll be wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not deceived. Who's the deceiver? Satan. Yep. For the end is not yet. We have historic, biblical glory days so close, about to begin. This year is going to be like no other. These next 6 months and the year end are going to be historically awesome, exciting, great, beyond what you can even describe for the church, and the exact opposite for those who planted evil seeds. Thanks everybody for listening. God bless.
People wanted justice. God of justice is going to flip the tables here real quick. It's the greatest time in the history of the world to be alive, and we get to be a part of it. So thank you both. God bless you. And this ends today's Take 5. Go in his shalom.